Hi, I'm Elizabeth Van Tassel from elizabethvantassel.com, coming to you from Dayton, Ohio today, and I am sitting next to Lorie Langdon. I want to introduce you to her. She's a young adult author. She writes amazing, fun fiction for anyone who loves a little taste of Scotland and even beyond. So thank you so much for talking today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I just love your characters, and I feel like they make me laugh, maybe cry a little bit, and also the twist of wit is exceptional.
Thank you.
How did you come up with those ideas, and what were you hoping to accomplish in these first books here, the Dune series with Carey and
Carey Corp.
Yeah. So what were you thinking of, both of you?
Well, Dune is the story of two best friends, two girls from the Midwest, and they travel to Scotland, and they end up opening a portal to a kingdom that only appears once every 100 years. And if that sounds a little bit familiar to some people, it is a reimagining of Brigadoon, which is a classic musical, and it was probably out in the 1940s. There was a movie in the 1950s that starred Gene Kelly. And I saw the play, the musical, when I was 16 years old, and it was the first live musical that I ever saw. And I fell in love with this enchanted premise that people could cross a bridge and end up in this little village that was trapped in time and place. And I loved the Scottish theme and the beautiful songs. And in the musical, there's two men, two hunters, and they find this village across a bridge, and the village is small, it's trapped in time and place, and I really loved the whole concept of the story. But what always bothered me was in the musical, during the 100 years that the village of Brigadoon is not accessible, the people sleep. And I'm like, really? They sleep for 100 years? Like, who wants to choose? Because, you know, Gene Kelly's character in the movie, he has to decide, do I want to stay in Brigadoon forever? Why would he decide to stay there and they sleep for 100 years? So,
especially when he dances so well.
Yeah, exactly. He's so cute. But it really was something that was on my mind throughout the years. And when I decided to retell it, I knew that I wanted to retell it from that point of view of my teenage self, because I was 16 and everything was so big, and you know, emotions are huge when you're 16. Yeah. And so I wanted to retell it for a new generation.
That's wonderful. And of course, I love that. Every time I see a misty bridge.
It's definitely. Brigadoon covers are not my design. My publisher hires outside sources, so a contractor, and this is Mike Heath, and he's actually a graphic artist and a photographer. So I've actually interacted with the model who plays Veronica.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and we've had so many people email us and say, can I have that dress? Where can I find that dress? I want to wear it to prom. And actually, the photographer, we reached out to him and he said he bought it online and it was the last one.
Oh, no.
And so he has it. He actually has it.
Ooh.
So I'm like, maybe an auction someday.
That does sound like an auction idea.
Yeah,
for like a worthwhile charity.
Yeah. I'd love to do that. So
wonderful. Well, I love hearing the story of Brigadoon and certainly Dune, and the whimsy of your characters, but also there's some sharp wit. And you know, how did you decide to put your characters through so much and then end on that ray of hope?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that it's a very realistic storyline as far as where our characters come from, and we wanted to ground Veronica and McKenna in reality. And so many of us have challenges that we face, and you know, it's really all about how we overcome those challenges in real life. And we wanted to show our characters overcoming their individual challenges with grace, and just to really demonstrate that there is hope and there's so much more that your life can become. And I think sometimes teenagers kind of feel like their world is so small, and it's like, especially if they're unhappy, you know, in their high school or their situation or their home life. And we wanted to demonstrate it's not always going to be like that. You know, there's a bigger world out there. And so, you know, you're not always going to be the person who is categorized in high school as the drama geek like Kenna was, you know, or be in a negative home situation like Veronica. You can change your fate. So
love that. You can change your fate. and to think bigger than the current world.
Yeah.
Even though it went to a fantasy world,
Yeah.
that's true in our world too.
True. And as far as the wit goes, that really comes a lot from Carey and I, because Carey and I are good friends, but we're very different. Like if you were to meet Carey in person, you would see she's just a completely different person. She's very like boisterous and loud, and but we work together, and our relationship is kind of witty, and we'll do a lot of the things that me and Kenna do in our own relationship. And so that's kind of where the basis of that came from.
And their friendship is fresh.
Yeah.
Because it would be pretty boring if we were all the same.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely would be boring.
Yeah.
Now you also, maybe in your own life, I talk about resilience and kind of that bounce back factor from real life difficulties.
Yeah.
Have you had to face anything that you've bounced back from or are working on?
Yeah, actually, my whole writing journey started with a situation that I had to bounce back from. So I've shared on social media and, at all the schools that I visit that I have a disease called Crohn's disease, and it's a digestive disorder, and it's an autoimmune disorder as well. And there's no cure for it. And I was diagnosed probably when I was 22. So I've been dealing with it for a long time, but it's one of those situations where you can go through periods of time where you feel good and then you feel really bad. And so probably about 10 years ago, the disease flared up, and it was after I'd had 2 children, and they were small and just really demanding, at that age, and my health just kind of crashed. And so I was probably under 100 pounds, and I was severely anemic to the point where I had to go and have infusions of iron, and then they ended up doing blood transfusions because they said that I was at stroke level, that I was so I was just really weak, and I was in constant pain. And it was a situation where I started to question my life, and I had that moment like, okay, what is my purpose on this earth? Like, it's got to be bigger than me going to an office, because I had a corporate job at that time, and sitting at a desk and recruiting individuals for this multi-billion-dollar company. Like, it's got to be more than that. And so I ended up having to take off 6 weeks of work, because the doctors wanted to send me to the Mayo Clinic for experimental treatment, and I didn't want to do it. Didn't want to leave my kids. And so I took the time off work, and I just started praying, God, what is it that I can do with this to make it a positive situation and turn it around? And that's when I had this dream, and it was a book. It was an entire book in my head. And I always loved to write, and I was actually a journalism major in college. But
so was I actually.
Yeah, you were. So I pushed those dreams of writing down, though, because I wanted to get a corporate job and live the American dream. And it all came back, like that story that was in my dream. God just kind of dropped it into my life and said, you need to write this. You need to turn this into a book. Ironically, that book hasn't been published, but it was the gateway, right? It was the thing that opened my eyes to, this is my destiny, like this is my purpose on earth. And it all came from just really wanting to overcome that disease and that horrible time. And I remember sitting at my computer, like with a stomach, right, or a pillow clutched to my stomach, like, and turning to type. So I was in so much pain, but it was an escape. It was a way for me to get away from that pain, like in that bad period of my life. And it's really taught me that resilience that you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially with physical pain. I think it's very hard because it kind of envelops you like a big shadow, but it's really, I think, writing or anything else that you can do positive, and even just taking little outings can help you to not be defined by it.
That's right. That's what I tell my kids too. They struggle with Crohn's as well. And I'm like, you do not let this disease define you. And I think whatever challenge that you have in your life, you have to overcome it, and you can't let it define you. So it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I really love that. Now tell me what you're working on right now.
Actually, I have another book coming out, my first solo novel, and it's called Gilt Hollow. And it is a romantic thriller for teens with a whodunit mystery at its heart. And so this is a story that is very different from Dune in a way. because it's contemporary. There's no magic, no fantasy element. It's about Willow Lamont, whose best friend Ashton is convicted of manslaughter at the age of 14. And he is sent away to juvie, and the whole time that he's gone, she defends him. And they live in this small town called Gilt Hollow, and she's kind of ostracized for defending him and bullied in her school because people associate them together. But when he ends up coming back after serving his time, he's so fueled with rage and wanting revenge against the people who testified against him that it causes Willow to question everything she thought to be true about her best friend. And when he comes to her and says, I need your help, I was set up, she has to decide whether or not he is a villain, a savior, or a bit of both.
Okay, Lorie, I gotta ask you about the guys in your book.
Yeah.
You know, they're strong, they're very Scottish,
Yes.
but also they have some general nobility to them. How did you put that together? And I know you and Carey probably had a neat take on that.
Yeah, we both decided at the time when we wrote the books that we wanted the two heroines to be very strong characters and to kind of really be the hero of this whole series. And we did pull that off, I believe. But we also had noticed in YA at the time, it seemed as if their male heroes, you know, the romantic love interest, wasn't quite as strong. Like the female's super strong, and then the guy's kind of a little bit passive.
Milquetoast, yeah.
Yeah, a little milquetoast, exactly. And so we wanted to make these two guys just as strong, but to be able to complement the girls. And I think that Jamie and Duncan do a good job of that. They were both raised with really strong morals, and nobility is at the heart of everything that they do. And they always try to make the right choices. And in the first book, Jamie's a little misguided at first, and he thinks he's making the right choices when actually he's kind of, you know, shutting out his destiny.
And he's so strong.
Yeah,
About it.
he's trying to put the kingdom first. He was raised as the crown prince of Doon. And he was raised to put the kingdom and his people first. And so that can be a big area of conflict for him. And I know I talk about Jamie a lot because I write Veronica. So Jamie's the hero that, you know, I'm the most attached to, but I love Duncan too. I think that they're both just, and also like in the fourth book, we get to see a lot more of their relationship, the bromance, the brother relationship. And they really are, they have such a strong relationship, even though they butt heads. Like they don't always agree, which I love that about them because I have two sons. They don't always agree, but at the heart, they love each other and they respect each other.
You and Carey are really good friends in addition to being writing partners. But perhaps there was a time when you're writing something and there's just a little rub. However do you handle that with a business partner and also a friend, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question because Carey and I are both really strong-willed individuals, but we're very different. And so it's bound to happen in any creative collaboration. You're going to have times when you don't agree, and it's really just how you learn to handle that. So the way that we structure the writing is I write one character, I write Veronica, and Carey writes McKenna, and then we structure the plot together. So all of the plots in all four books and the overarching plot, we structure together. And there are times when I want the plot to go this way, and she wants it to go that way. And so what we've learned to do, and we didn't always know how to do this, but I think probably towards the end of the second book, we figured this out. So if I want to do this, she wants to do that, we throw out both of those ideas and we come up with something new.
Yeah.
And it's always better. Like the new thing that we come up with together is always a better idea. It's like magic. That it's always a better thing.
So does it kind of push you beyond where you had even thought it would go maybe?
Oh, yeah. It's like when we had to rewrite our concept for book 3 for Shades of Doon. Carey was really adamant that original concept, which I won't even go into because it's not worthwhile even talking about, but we both decided after discussing it wasn't really the right direction for the series. And so we had to come up with something new. And it was when we were like holed up in a hotel room in Indianapolis that we were just throwing ideas around. And we came up with the idea that Veronica and McKenna are sucked out of Doon and they have to face their old lives. And really, it just brought the whole thing full circle. And it was amazing. So that never would have happened if we hadn't been willing to let go of our own ideas and come up with something better, something new.
I'm reading that right now, and it totally has me on the edge of my seat. So I love that. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm so glad.
Well, I just can't thank you enough for talking today and for not only the characters that you write that inspire me and make me laugh and put a little twinkle in my eye, but also just for talking today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And especially for sharing more message about Crohn's disease and how even in really those darker corners of life, you don't have to be defined in that moment. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, now.